right, I'm gonna start recording. All right, let's see. So should we just hop into it, or?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, sweet. Okay, it's recording. All right, so we got John Fraizer, coach. Welcome. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. If you want to just go ahead and give a little brief introduction about yourself and what it is that you do.
Again, I'm John Fraizer. I'm a UCLA grad of 1986. I'm a political science major, undergrad, kinesiology, graduate school. Been coaching now for on my 32nd year of coaching. Been at 9 different universities, currently back at UCLA, and trying to navigate things through the pandemic, post-pandemic, I guess.
Yeah. So, I guess I just want to start off by asking you what brought you into coaching, and what was that initial attraction towards it? I mean, I know you were an athlete and everything like that, but what was kind of that moment where you're like, oh, this is something that I'm interested in, and what would you describe your role as a coach? What is it that entails?
Well, it kind of happened in such a way where by default, because again, I was political science, public administration emphasis, and I thought either I was going to go to law school or local government. And what ended up happening, I wasn't ready for the real world when I graduated. And so what ended up happening is I got a position as an assistant coach at UC Irvine. And while I was there, my first year of coaching, I had an All-American in the hammer. And it was almost as though I was still competing. I enjoyed it so much. And then I got offered a full-time position in coaching at Humboldt State University.
Right.
And I went ahead and took it, still thinking that I was going to go ahead and get my master's and move into another direction because they paid for my master's. And, got there and was there for 1 year. And I guess long story short, I kind of fell in love with being around the athletes and, encouraging people, helping people, and rest is history. I just, ended up changing my graduate major to kinesiology and wanting to focus on coaching. And I knew I had to do other things on the side because coaching wasn't like, going to pay all the bills.
Yeah.
You do it because you love it. It's in track and field. It's not football. It's not basketball, but you have a passion for track and field.
Right.
But that's why I chose this route.
Yeah. I think it definitely shows too that like you're definitely one of the most passionate coaches that I've met in all the programs and everything like that. And so it definitely comes through. And I think that's one of the cool things with track too is that, I mean, because it's not a huge revenue sport, the people who are in it actually really like enjoy what they're doing. And so, I mean, because you said you're going into like, this is your 36th year, you said, coaching?
Don't make me a lot older.
All right. Second year.
No, I'm old.
But so I want to ask you, how did you kind of cultivate your coaching philosophy, and what things do you try to cultivate like in your group? How did you build that for yourself over the years, and your approach to how you mentor your group and your team and everything like that? How has that changed and how has it grown?
Well, I like to say my mentor coach was a guy named Mark Venegas.
Yeah.
My coach at UCLA. Hands down the greatest collegiate coach ever, as well as one of the best ever in the world. And, Art did certain things very well, certain things not so well. Again, I was with Art as a young coach, and obviously he evolved and matured and changed, and we still talk today. And so I based my philosophy about things I learned from him that were good, things that may have been bad, like, hey, I'm gonna do this differently. And then I think my whole approach formulated around just helping people, creating relationships, encouraging people, letting people know that there are no obstacles in the way for them to accomplish whatever goals they have. And, just every day going out where most days, that's where I want to be. I want to be right here most days, because there are days you don't want to be out there. Athletes don't want to be out there training.
Yeah.
Coaches don't want to be out there, but most days you want to be out there. But I want them to enjoy the sport. I want them to have fun. Yeah, I want them to win. I want them to do their best. But everyone's not going to win. Everyone's not going to be the best person on the team or best person in the country. But I'd rather have a kid with heart, passion, for the sport, and then you can develop that, have fun with them,
Right.
them to do the very best that they can do.
Right. Yeah. Aside from like all the technical and stuff, and so how do you go about, like, outside of the technical stuff, outside of the athletic stuff? You said you look for things like heart. What are some things that you look at when you're trying to build your group, maintain kind of that culture, that function? What are the things that you look for when you're trying to bring in a new guy? And what are the things that kind of stick out or stand out to you when you're trying to bring and recruit that talent into your own group?
Well, it's a new world compared to when I was an athlete. So we have social media where we can go and learn about a person, go to their social media sites. You talk to parents, you talk to coaches, you may talk to their teammates. And I try to find people that fit within the program. One thing, like I tell my athletes all the time that are currently in the program, you guys got to tell me the truth about this athlete, because you're going to be around them more than I.
Right.
So you have to like them. So, don't, withhold information, because there's going to be things that you're going to see that I don't see.
Right.
Because they're going to be at their best behavior when they're around me.
Right.
And, athletes are getting it now. Before they weren't getting it. Person would come in, they're complaining. And then they're like, yeah, well, on this recruiting trip, oh, well, then why didn't you tell me? That's your So now the thing I do is I really kind of like look for people that aren't going to carry a lot of baggage. I'm not looking for a perfect person. I'm looking for people that will fit within the system, that will come in, do what they're supposed to do, and then I can help build them, because there's athletes that I've gotten, and I know there's weak spots they may have, and I feel like, man, I can help that person,
Right.
or that person's going to overcome it, or they're going to grow. And that's kind of some of the things I do in the process of the recruiting and people fitting within the culture.
Right. So are there any signs or some signs that might be like, okay, this kid, he works well with other people, or he like, what are some signs that might indicate that this person will be a good fit into the team, like, or with the stuff that the students are telling you, that other athletes are telling you, like, you said heart, passion, like, how do those things translate into, I guess, like in a physical sense, or like in a tangible sense?
So when I'm in the recruiting process, I'll have like a list of things athletes need to do.
Right.
And a green light is when I send them an email, text message, hey, this needs to be done. Boom, it's done.
Yeah.
That's the first good sign that they're going to take care of business. I'll get athletes and they kind of drag their feet. They don't do it. And just last year, there's an athlete I was recruiting, and that they weren't the best athlete, but during the recruiting process, because my athletes were honest and told me, because I asked them about this person, we realized that the person wasn't like the type of athlete that would fit well at UCLA, because immaturity and certain things I'd asked the athlete to do, they didn't do it. And so literally by eliminating themselves, it allowed me to see, okay, that person wasn't a good fit.
Right. Okay.
I have a list of things that I'm going to ask questions or ask to do or try to get information, but I want to see self-starters. I want to see people who work hard. I want to see people that are disciplined. And being a UCLA graduate yourself, those things are very essential to come to school here.
Right.
During the quarter system, it moves fast and there's no time for playing around and not staying on top of things.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, like with the self-starters, the self-discipline, kind of the self-autonomy of, because your group, like your group, I mean, I would say your group was definitely one of the most disciplined groups on the team, like consistently. And I think as a standard, a lot of the other groups of the team would look at those guys and say, hey, like, what is it that those guys are doing that we're not doing, and you could count on them. You would see them in the weight room when you're not there. You would see them out doing the stuff, even when you're not there, making sure that they're on top of it. So how do you go about cultivating that within your own team? Is that something that isn't necessarily present when they come in, that you try to instill, like this self-autonomous, self-drive aspect? I'm sure that's part of it, like when they come in. How do you better like foster that, so there's this culture of, okay, even if coach isn't here, we're going to make sure that we're on top of it,
So yeah, very, I believe your first year was 2015, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So the year before you got there, when I got to UCLA, there was a discus thrower, Julian Ruck.
Right.
And Julian, obviously NCAA champion, collegiate record holder. He, being in the program, established a sense of discipline.
Okay.
And my first UCLA athlete was Nicholas Garvelis.
Yeah.
And that rubbed off onto Nick.
Mm.
So I had to come in and I helped to fine tune things on Nick, but Nick was very motivated, obviously still throwing today for Greece.
Right.
And bringing in Dotun, bringing in Brahim, bringing in all the other people that came in, it rubbed off. And so that culture was established. And I can go back to when I was a student athlete back in the 80s. When I got to UCLA, there was a guy named John Brenner, very disciplined, long story short, collegiate record holder, American record. And that just all kind of like kept going for years for Art Venegas to be able to have people like that. And then when they get there, you teach them how to lift. Then they learn things from the older athletes.
Right.
And then I know when I'm out coaching on the track, they may go to the weight room early. Then I know that they're going to go ahead and do the things that they need to do.
Right.
Teammates are around them to motivate them. So there's always strength in numbers of positive people. And that's the thing. People that are like-minded, want to work hard, goal-oriented, trying to better themselves.
Right. And it sounds like, I mean, there's definitely a big trust factor too, I think, within your dynamic there, where your group, they really trust what you have, with what you're going to present them and tell them what to do is going to take them to that next step, and then you trust them to take care of the business on their end as well. I don't know if you could talk about more like just the trust in the relationship that you guys have, and what importance and role that plays.
No, I like the question because in our society, that trust is something that a lot of people struggle with. And what I try to do is have open lines of communication.
Yeah.
So I want the athletes to feel comfortable. Hey, you can ask me any question. You can disagree with me. Don't disrespect me. I won't disrespect you. But let's come together and find out what's going to work for you. And there are going to be times where you're going to be right. There's going to be times where I'm going to be right. But if we know that we're working toward the same goal for you to be the best, then, we're not going to get our feelings hurt, so we're going to come to an agreement of what works. And I think just the fact of building relationships with athletes where they feel comfortable, hey, I can go to coach and talk to him, whether I'm right or wrong, I can talk to coach. And I think that right there, breaks the ice in a lot of relationships I have. because they'll feel comfortable coming and talking. And, you know, and some people, it takes more time. Like I have a young man who just came in this year, and he was a hard guy to figure. And then I had to like look at his background more and where he came from.
Right.
And, you know, thank God that I was able to figure out certain things about him, and had a lot of one-on-one time with him to get to know him as a person.
Right. Right.
It's really helped, you know, where I think some people, they look at based upon whatever their history is with their coach, they equate all coaches to whatever was really negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
How coach is. But, you know, I think what I do is not always like, you know, that's the typical coach approach. You know, like I said, I enjoy what I do. I want them to have fun.
Right.
I
Right.
laugh. I want to see them enjoy themselves.
Yeah. 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 You guys are always having a good time out there on the track. That's for sure. Getting the work done, but also having a good time. So like maybe in terms of getting resistance to the program or to an athlete, how do you go about managing that and working out a solution where maybe an athlete might not, like we said, the trust thing, maybe they don't have faith in your program, or you don't have faith that the athlete can fulfill their part, their duties, what they need to do. What kind of strategies, how would you approach that situation going forward?
Well, the one thing that I realize is it's funny, at UCLA, there's a different type of mentality of an athlete.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to equate it to like an Ivy League school,
Right.
where there's a lot of smart students.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, sometimes they may be very bright, but they're not directed. And what I've come to learn is that I need to listen more to what they tell me. And I think by listening and giving them a platform and giving them a voice, but yet letting them know, okay, here are the parameters.
Right. Right.
I'm the coach, this is my program, but you may bring something to the table that I don't have already. Or you may make me aware of things about you or your technique or what you feel in the throw that I'm not aware of. I know what I see, but I don't know what you feel.
Right.
So you communicate that to me and we talk about it and we look at video, then we can formulate the best approach for your throw.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times just talking, just being able to communicate,
Yeah.
being able to look at things, and probably the biggest thing, just listening. And, you know, sometimes athletes will tell me stuff and it's definitely wrong.
Yeah.
But I listen. And then as we talk, and then they'll realize, oh yeah, that's not the right way.
Yeah.
Or the flip side, I may have a plan and we talk about it. I'm like, wait a minute, my plan is not right. Yeah, you know what? I like what you're talking about. And I think Dot Toon's senior year, that was probably one of the greatest accomplishments for him, is when we did communicate and dialogue, because we butted heads sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we went back, talked about it, and lo and behold, I mean, his whole direction of his
Right.
life changed from his outdoor season after hitting rock bottom indoors.
Yeah. Just opening up that line of communication is so big, and like you said, building the relationship individually as well, like within your group. Do you think having like a certain number of people within your group, like, I mean, as the group grows, the line of communication gets a little bit harder to maintain with at that many individuals? Is there kind of like a sweet spot of team, like where, okay, maybe 10 guys is a little bit too much for me to really tailor each one to fit to do everything that needs to be done? Is there like a kind of sweet spot that, or you just kind of make it work?
Well, that's a very good question. I think it depends. First of all, I don't want to cattle call, and I've had big groups before.
Right.
And when I wasn't mature enough to understand, I wasn't that great of a communicator. It became a problem.
Yeah.
But, you know, coming to UCLA, I knew that I didn't want a big group, and it definitely helps to have a smaller group. but it definitely helps to have the right combination of personalities and everyone's not the same.
Yeah, true.
The javelin group, they're different. Shot putters, different. Discus, different. Hammer, different.
Right.
Come to appreciate the personalities of all the different people. And it was really cool. Earlier this week, there was a javelin thrower I had at Tennessee, and we talked via Instagram. And this guy was the funniest guy, really bright. But I could go back and say he was a pain in the butt. But the funny thing was I saw the kid grow. I saw him mature. I had his back. Even when he was wrong, when he made mistakes, I kept giving him opportunities because I saw the potential in him as a person. And then looking at him today on Instagram wearing like being a police officer, I was like, wow, that last guy who I would have thought would be in law enforcement. But no, I think it's good to have different dynamics of the team and to be able to help each other out, like where they learn from each other because they are so different in what they do.
Right. Yeah. Because in that aspect, so identifying the strengths and the weaknesses with which each person and then overall in the team, and then trying to put them all together, like place them where they're in their strong suit. So if you identify like the strengths and the weaknesses, do you try to play more on the strengths, or do you try to build the weaknesses? Or is it kind of like a mix of both?
So there's times where I have individuals who do not work well together.
Right.
So sometimes people may do more one-on-one stuff, or I might put people in groups with other people, and it all depends. Like I can do based on strengths or weaknesses, and I think just by understanding where, like putting people in a position of where they can be successful. When I understand that, it kind of helps with the flow of things. There have been times where I've had, like everyone together, didn't work out.
Right.
And but not that I just avoid it. I kind of like work toward that because we're going to be in a team. We're all going to see each other.
Yeah.
So we would always have Fun Day Friday where everyone would come out, like all the shot putters would be there, all the discus, and the athletes crank up the music and make it like a competitive type situation. Everybody's throwing or cheering for each other. Some people had good days, some people had bad days, but at the end of the day, everybody kind of was there, for each other.
Right.
Early in the week when we're working hard, I'm more focused on technique and changing things. And, I got to be in certain settings, with the athletes. And like I said, early on in the fall, when I get a new athlete, I try to establish and determine, okay, what does this athlete need? How can I put them in the best position to be successful?
Right. Yeah. Because there's a certain every athlete person develops at their own pace. So when you do bring in a new recruit or a new athlete, how do you go about maybe developing their progression over the time span that they're there? Like when you get them and you say, okay, this year we're gonna work this year we're gonna work on maybe relearning some aspect of the throw, or and then the next year, how does that planning go into their development?
So early on, what I try to do during the recruiting process, or even after they've committed to UCLA, and I'm watching their senior year of high school, I'm focused on, okay, what do they do really well, their strengths, and then how can I get this athlete better? So when they do get to UCLA, I can get them running quicker.
Okay.
And then athletes, I can't fully establish that. I know they're good, but I don't fully understand the whole dynamics of their throw until they get there. and I watch him throw and not say things for, when I say not say things, but I'm not really like making a lot of technical changes for weeks until I really comprehend, okay, this is what's going on.
Right.
Okay, this is what's happening. Like I have a kid now, and unfortunately he came in, got hurt right away.
Right.
And then the pandemic happens. I don't see him for a year. He hurt, his back was still hurt. He comes back, he's healthy. And now he's trying to figure out throwing the 2K discus, and the fact that he hadn't taken a lot of hard throws, and slowly but surely I'm figuring things out. And last week we had our first competition. He didn't do well. It doesn't represent who he is, but now I have a clearer picture of what we need to do to help him get to where he wants to get to.
Right. Right.
And so, like I said, it's just a matter of understanding their strengths and their weaknesses and how to move that forward.
Right. So, because like you mentioned, he came in, got injured, and then the pandemic happened. You hadn't really seen him in like a year. So, and we talked communication. Obviously, is a huge. It's come up several times. Is a huge component in the success of the overall group. And so, what are some of the communication strategies that you find helpful when working with your group? Like how often do you guys communicate? What do you guys communicate about? How much is it necessary to open up that dialogue? Is it every day? Is it 2 times a day? Is it 3 times a week? Like where it works well?
They're different settings. So one setting would be just how you approach the practices. The fortunate thing that I get, and sometimes unfortunate, but fortunate, is I'll get very good athletes.
Yeah.
They already understand the throw. There's certain things that they understand really well. And I got to be able to identify, their IQ in throwing.
Right.
Some athletes, they're just good and they don't know why they do it. Like, this is what I do, I don't know why. And so I need to establish that. So once I get that established, and then they feel good when I give them props like, oh, you're doing really well. I didn't know you knew this, or you taught me something. And that kind of helps them to feel more positive, and they're going to open up, and we're just going to dialogue in between throws, at practice. And then there's times like, after practice, hey, let's go eat. You're eating, you're talking things outside of track and field. You're talking about family, you're talking about future, you're talking about goals. And then when you start traveling, when you hit the road, when you're going to meets and your group eats together or hangs out together, or your events are over, you're watching other events and cheering on the other athletes, you're talking about stuff. So I think just making sure you utilize each time in such a way where you're building that relationship with the individuals.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how do you think, because I mean, a lot of industries and stuff like that kind of not stepping away from athletics, but just things are kind of moving like really digitally and everything like that. And I know you've probably experienced that within the past year and trying to manage like with the whole squad and everything. How do you think kind of team performance and team efficiency is impacted by the digital communication aspect? Do you think what are some positive, what are some negatives? Is it the same? Can you still feel kind of like a similar spirit, I guess, as a non-digital way?
Well, I think there's positive things that have happened. Like right when the pandemic hit, my goal was to keep people like focused on the sport still.
Yeah.
And every week for probably about 6 weeks, I had a prominent athlete on a Zoom call or a coach to talk to the group. And I thought that was very good to just kind of keep people like together. Um, and I think, now with people being more mature with social media and more, I'm not going to say social media, but I'm going to say YouTube. And the
Yeah.
reason I say YouTube because a lot of athletes, there's a lot of information about throwing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny going back to early 2000s when, things were getting going even more. So I had an athlete who would come to practice every day with a new technique. And I knew what was going on. And I would kind of freak the athlete out. I'm like, oh yeah, looks a little like Hannes Hopley in the discus, the South African kid that was at
Yeah.
SM. And coach, how'd you know? And then next, oh, looked like Alekna. But the thing was this kid, was a very bright kid, but didn't know. He thought, oh, I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that.
Mm.
But finally, we were able to talk. Let's do what works for you. Don't look at
Right.
a thrower and feel that that's you. You're not 6'6", or you're not this strong. Like this is who you are. So what I'll do now, which is really cool, like on Instagram now we'll go to social media. I'll see things, either a javelin workout or a discus throw or a shot, whatever, and I could just shoot it to an athlete right away. Hey, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And look at the right side in the middle. Look at his shoulders out of the back of the ring. So I think from that standpoint, it's been really good. And I'm a big Facebook person. I'll communicate with people. I think you and we talked via Facebook.
Yeah.
But I'm not going on there posting stuff. And
right.
But what I do like about Instagram is I see a lot of good throwing videos of either recruits or world-class athletes, and so I think from that standpoint, it's helped me, and I'm using it now to help my athletes. Who, a lot of them were doing it before I even got on there.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I started. Like in high school, was just YouTube pretty much. Like our coach was okay, but I was just watching, Carl Lewis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. So what do you think are some of the negative aspects of coaching and trying to manage the organization, like even within the coaching staff, just having everything kind of digitized? How's your strategy and how you guys communicate been affected by Zoom meetings or just yeah?
Well, I think if things were organized more, organization helps. Coach Bush, Jim Bush, who was my head coach for 2 years when I was at UCLA, I asked him early on in my coaching career, I'm like, hey, can you give me some advice to help me to become a successful coach? And he was like, John, you always have to be organized. You always have to have a plan. You always have to know what's going to happen next. You can't go out there and wing it.
Right.
And so for me, I want to know as much information as I need to know for athletes to be successful, for practices to be successful, the flow of things. And I think probably what I've experienced more so with the pandemic is, and it's not anyone's fault, most of it's not anyone's fault, but everybody's waiting to see, okay, what's our next move? What do we do? Where do we go? Like we have this dead period for the NCAA, and they keep extending. And so we can't go and see recruits in person, recruiting via Zoom calls and maybe FaceTime or something like that. And, that's all good, but it's not the real thing. And I actually coach a kid via FaceTime, which I've learned that, boy, if the cameras and you got everything set up right, it's a real coaching session. And I saw this kid really improve from the time I started doing it.
Really? Okay.
It depends on how the how the media is working, the sound, the effectiveness of like not getting like frozen and all of that.
Yeah.
You'll be talking to someone, all of a sudden they're like this, they're frozen. You miss what happened.
Yeah.
Based on that, that's been some of the worst workouts we've had.
Right.
So all of that works well. This could work well. And
Right.
You know, you're young, but you know that, like the Jetsons, you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of how our world is heading right now.
Yeah. New times.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess it could be it. I mean, because video feedback and all that stuff is really important with coaching and everything. So I'm sure if there's better systems like with maybe multiple angles that are maybe a little bit more coach friendly or whatever, you might be able to see in real time and like slow it down or whatever. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but yeah, I could definitely see how digital tool in the future might be used. So what, like you said, you had that one coach, and when you were asking the things to be a successful coach, what in your opinion or ideas do you think are the components necessary to build a successful team? And then what are the on the opposite spectrum end of the spectrum, what are the things that lead to a failing team?
I would coach who has the most passion and not the most knowledge.
Mm,
The reason why I say that is a coach with passion is going to be trying to figure out how to get you better. A coach with knowledge and no passion, they're going to be lazy. They're not going to be on top of things. And if you get it, fine. If you don't, okay, well, it's your fault.
yeah,
And I think, just having passion and love for whatever you're doing is a key component to success. And I think just knowing that, again, like the key, most days, that's where you want to be.
yeah, it's true.
And by having that mentality, it's going to allow you to keep working hard and keep adjusting and keep adding and keep changing and maybe deleting and finding all the things that are going to work for that individual, for that team, for that event. And I think just doing that is going to be huge. Talking to other coaches, talking to other athletes, researching, never stop learning, always trying to learn and like, oh man, I never knew that, or I never thought of it that way. Or I'll listen to coaches at meets. I'll hear their cues sometimes. I'm like, well, that's a good cue. I understand that. I see what they're trying to do. I had a hammer session back in the fall. I was around, well, no, it's a few months ago. I was around another coach,
Yeah,
heard some cues, and literally changed some great dynamics in what I'm doing in my coaching right now.
yeah.
And I think just being a person who, like a sponge, is helpful in terms of being successful.
Right. Yeah, constantly just taking, and the passion is kind of going to fuel that interest to want to keep learning because you're just passionate about it. So
Exactly.
yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. So last question, in in the non-athletic context, what can organizations take from an athletic perspective, in terms of cultivating that kind of championship culture, that winning mindset, and building their whole team and organization to just have that goal oriented championship. Let's go out and get it done type mindset.
Yeah, I get emails all the time from different corporations or companies. Hey, we're looking for athletes. We're looking for any of your people that might be interested that are graduating. I'll forward those emails to my graduating seniors, or if it's an internship and someone's still in school, and so I think the fact that um, they're looking for people that are going to work well with others. They're looking for people that are going to be goal team oriented, um, based upon what I said earlier about being organized, having a plan, um, having goals, accomplishing your goals, um, hard work, putting in the time, staying on top of things, being competitive, be relentless.
Yeah,
Like, you know what, I'm not gonna stop until I get this done.
yeah,
Or,
yeah.
you know what, I lost this time, I lost this account, and I'm gonna figure out how I can get an account like this next time.
Right.
And I think with that mentality from athletics, it carries over into the real world. Like I'll have athletes that will be really good students, but they come out to the track and they're not as good of athletes.
Mm.
They don't approach their athletics like their academics.
Right. Mm.
And then flip it over. I have very good athletes that might not be as good of students. And so what I do is I'll let them know, hey, you know, you're getting A's. Have you ever thought of approaching track and field the same way you approach your major?
Right.
When they're smart, when they realize that, then all of a sudden they start doing better. Or you know, I'll flip it around, you know, where, boy, you come out here, you're on top of things athletically, you're organized, and do that in the classroom. And so that's how I had to learn, because I was not the best student when I got to
Yeah, same.
because, and part of it is I was never taught how to study,
Right.
never in the classroom. High school was like, it was easy. You show up, put a little bit of work in, you know, whereas UCLA, man, you got to be on top of
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah.
it took me 3 years to really figure. I graduated in 5. My last 2 years, I felt legitimate. I was on top of things. I knew what I was doing. And it was just a systematic way. And, you know, with that in place, you know, it helped me from an athletic standpoint from the classroom. And then and then vice versa from a academic way, what I did on the track. So it
Yeah.
all like played into each other. So I think with those aspects, corporations are looking for people like that to come in and do well.
Right. Yeah. Because that's the thing. One of the things I definitely noticed, like stepping away from athletics and kind of like into the real world, or whatever. It's very different, and trying to bring that same mindset. When we're in the weight room getting it, it's like it's a different type of energy, and trying to just bring that same type of energy into an office setting or in a classroom setting, and people with like it's a little like shocking at first, like what is this kid doing? But it's just that mindset is something that I find really really valuable, and it's hard to find outside of athletics. So trying to see in an office space where a lot of people are not coming from an athletic background, and trying to bring that and showcasing that and cultivating that within themselves to take it higher. So it's definitely just been an interesting experience. But,
Yeah, and you know, another thing too that I think hurts athletes is when they get jealous of other athletes.
mm,
And you know, I think by having other athletes partake in the success of another athlete, it helps. Where, you know, if you're in the workplace and you're in a competitive situation, you know, you just can't, like, other people are going to be successful,
right, right,
and you want to be around successful people, and you want to enjoy their success as you become successful.
right.
And you know, that should motivate you, like, oh man, I can do that, I can do that also,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I can do it, and I can do it better. And then you do it, and but when you get jealous, you know, it's a negative that brings you down and keeps you from accomplishing your goals athletically and in the real world from a business standpoint. So I think
true.
just being happy for other people is important for success.
Yeah, that might be like not. I mean, I wonder if because you're dealing with a lot of like everybody has like an ego, and you're dealing with a lot of egos and stuff like that. So because like you said, taking also the time to listen and realize, hey, maybe okay, maybe this athlete sees something that I'm not seeing, or and being able to set that aside and work together on that aspect, bringing that into an office culture. I think kind of not getting rid of the egos, but setting them aside to keep that common vision together. So I think it's important for people like you and people like and coaches, and bring that mentality of, hey, this is the vision, set yourself kind of aside, and if he's winning, that's a win for all of us. If he's winning, if you're winning, we're all winning. You know what I mean? So I think that mindset is really, really, really helpful. You show
Mhm.
a great job with that with guys on the track and everything. So yeah, it's great. But yeah, anything else you wanna add?
No, this is good. Those are good questions, and it's kind of allowed me to like kind of think things out as I prepare for the day for practice. And like I said, this has been the hardest year I've ever had in coaching.
Right.
And the hard part too is there wasn't any plan in place for our season, and you're just
Yeah.
training, and then all of a sudden you find out within a week, oh, you have a meet on Friday, and then you see the personalities, mentality change. So then it's my job to kind of like keep people focused. Good thing is we got a meet under our belt, had a great week of training. Next meet is next Wednesday. So we got a meet in the middle of the week with Washington and UC Irvine, University of Washington. And then we have a meet on Saturday. So I think just with having a meet now we were like, okay, we're working on this. We're going to do this. And I think just that alone kind of settled athletes down, knowing that, hey, I'm now.
Yeah, because you kind of have to build that structure and kind of keep the mentality cool when all that stuff is like, oh man, and then because you don't want to let that energy kind of seep into what you got going on. You got to make sure.
Very true.
Yeah. So where you guys are going there next week, or it's at home?
Well, both meets are at UCLA.
Okay, well that's cool. That's cool.
Both meets are here. There's some meets on the schedule. I was told there's a question mark. There's some meets that we're supposed to have that aren't on the schedule. So we'll see what happens. All
right. Well, coach, that's all I got for you for the questions. I want to say thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I'll definitely keep you posted, like with the research and everything, because it's for my thesis. It's due in like a month and a half, so I still got some work to do on it. But yeah, I'll let you know. What the research presents. I'll shoot you the link and everything. And I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome, man. Hey, good seeing you, man. You look good.
Thanks. You too. Appreciate it.
Have fun out there in France.
Thank you. Yeah. Good luck with the meet next week, and then we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, Idris. Take care now.
All right, coach. Take care.
Bye-bye.